Hi, today I'm going to teach you how to make a cactus drawing. And we are going to look at some different shapes and types of cactuses and make them in an arrangement of a pot. Here is the example that I've done. All right, let's get started. First thing you have to do is decide what shape of pot you are going to make. In this example, I did more straight lines with a slight diagonal along the side edges, but now I'm going to show you how to make more of a curved pot. So make sure you have a pencil and an eraser. I would use your paper the long way so you have more room to make your pot of cactus. And you can use a ruler if you would like. That's going to help you get more straight edges. If you don't have a ruler, you can just use another piece of paper so that you have a straight edge to work with. All right, so your pot is going to be on the lower bottom half of your piece of paper. So if you want, you can take a straight edge and lightly just make a line that divides your paper in half, or about the halfway mark. And now I'm going to make the top of my pot by making just a straight line. And then I'm going to make a C shape that's curved, kind of like a C. I'm going to make that same exact shape on the other side. A curved C shape. So it's not exactly perfect on both sides, but you can tell I did my best to make two identical lines. If I wanted, I could erase this and keep going until I get it about as perfect as possible. Really, all I would have to do here is erase this part. This is where I didn't come in quite enough. Voila! And then for the bottom, I'm going to just make a straight line across that connects these 2 points. And now I'm going to use a straight edge or a ruler to make a flat surface for the pot to sit on. So I'm going to line up my straight edge at the bottom of this piece of paper. So it's nice and flush up against where this paper ends. And I'm going to make a line here with light pressure. I don't need it to be too dark. And now my pot is sitting on a flat surface. And now we can decorate our pot a little bit. Maybe we want it to have a lip on the top. There. All right, now for deciding what kind of cactus to put inside the pot. I have included where you found this assignment on Schoology. There's some pictures of different types of cactus that you can look at to give you an idea of all the different shapes and designs of cactus that you could make. So on here, to make my shapes look more realistic, like a real cactus, you can see a lot of places I made some lines that make it look like they have spikes. All right, let's get started with our first shape. This will be more of a traditional cactus. This is kind of a shape of a cactus that you see in cartoons and things like that. And it's going to have some lines running down it. Another shape of cactus is kind of like a sphere or a circle. So here I've made a top half of a circle. The other part of it is kind of hidden because it would be inside of this pot. If it's easier for you, you could make a whole circle and then just erase this bottom part when you're finished. And then take your pencil from the topmost point of that circle and make a straight line coming down. And we're going to pivot off the same point, so bring your pencil back up to your starting point and make kind of a backward C shape. So it's a curved line and a curved line. And that makes that part of the cactus look more 3D. I put the lines in there to make it look like it is actually a round cactus. And then you can make what I've been calling them as teeth coming off of the lines. Just a diagonal line up, diagonal line down. Makes it look like it's got some sharp points on it. Here's what I've got so far. 2 different types of cactus. And my next one, I'm going to make kind of just a stack of circular shaped cactuses. And then this is going to have some little spikes on it too. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing for my cactus shapes. You can look on the picture on Schoology, and I have about 25 different examples of different types of cactuses you could draw. And then, so these are all in the foreground. They are all towards the front of the pot. Now let's make some cactus shapes that are farther in the back of this display. To do that, these front ones are going to overlap the cactus shapes that I'm making now. This is going to be a taller one with some spikes. And then from each point, I'm going to make a line coming straight down towards the center. I'll make the letter V to show some spikes, some spiky texture. And we can tell that this cactus that I just made is farther in the background because it is being overlapped by this cactus that I made earlier. So you need to have at least 5 different cactuses in your pot. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is also going to be in the background of this display. So some parts of this cactus plant are hidden behind the ones that are closer to the front. There we go, 5 different types of cactuses. If I wanted to, I could add another one over here to kind of balance it out. See how there's more plant over on this side than on this side? I could add a little more over here if I wanted to give me 6 different kinds of cactus. As long as you have 5 different types, you are good. Beautiful. All right, now that we've got our cactus plants all in place, we are going to start thinking about how to design our pot. You're going to use different types of line and shapes to decorate your pot. On my pot, some different lines that you see are diagonal and wavy, and some shapes are squares and circles. So I want you to have at least 3 different types of line and at least 1 shape on yours. can use your ruler again to help you with the lines if you'd like. So maybe I'm going to make a dashed line in my pot. And a dashed line kind of reminds me of the middle of a highway, how it's got those dashed marks in it. Bring my ruler up just a little bit. I made another set of lines parallel to the one I just did. And I can connect. And I now have a dotted line going across my pot. And it's also, when I did that, I created a shape, which is a rectangle. Another kind of line I am going to show you is a zigzag. And then maybe I will do a loopy line at the top. And I'm going to put some diamonds in here too, I think. So now I've got more than 3 different kinds of lines, and I have at least one example of a shape in my pot, so I'm good. I'm ready to move on. In my example that I showed you earlier, right here, I took the time and went over each of my pencil lines with black marker. You do not need to do this, but I think it is a nice touch. It really makes your artwork stand out, and it just makes a really nice finished product. So it's up to you. It doesn't have to be a permanent marker. If you have just a washable black marker at home, that will work. Just make sure you find one that works. This is not the best marker. So yeah, you would just go over the top of all the pencil marks that you've done. And then you can start coloring. I would leave your tabletop surface for last, along with the background for last. I'm going to show you how to do a few things with texture. But in order to get this colored in, you can use any coloring materials you have at home, which could be oil pastels, crayons, markers, colored pencils, or even watercolor paint. If you do not have watercolor paint like this at home, there's a really easy way to make your own watercolor paint. And all you need is some dried out markers and a little bit of water. So I've been soaking some markers in here for about 20 minutes. They were dried out, didn't really work anymore, but they made a really nice blue paint, so you could use that. And I did the same, made another color, purple, with some purple markers. All right, so let's see. I will start with a white oil pastel, or you could use a white crayon if you have one. Like we've learned in class, anywhere that you put white down and then paint over the top, that white will come through. Any lighter color will work too. So if you have like a yellow or a light pink, that would work just fine also. But I'm going to start, I'll color in my zigzag line white. And then I'm going to take a crayon and go over my loopy line with pink crayon. It's a lighter crayon, so I know that will show up when I put watercolor paint over the top. When I color in plants, I like to use a variety of different materials to do that because I think it makes them look more realistic. So I could start with like a green colored pencil. And then maybe my spikes, I'm going to make them a little bit different color. I could use a yellow oil pastel. And then get some green watercolor paint, or you could make green watercolor paint with some dried out green markers and just go over the top here. And wherever I've put that oil pastel down, that color is going to poke through the paint because it's called a crayon resist technique. Maybe I want to have this part of my pot be colored green also. See how the oil pastel is resisting the paint? It's pushing the paint away from it. So that's how our design appears. And you can also see, because I took the time to do a green colored pencil over the top of some areas here, I have two different shades of green now. The green from my colored pencil and the green from my paint. All right, now for the background and the tabletop surface. What I did here in order to make my tabletop surface look more like real wood is I brought my piece of paper down on the floor and I used a crayon and rolled over the top, and it lifted whatever texture was below it, which was the wooden floor. I'm obviously sitting at the table now, so I don't have that wooden floor to work with, but on this table I do have some texture. It's different square tiles. So if I go like this, I can get that same texture that's behind it. See how it's leaving that line where the tiles meet? Move it down a little bit. Then it makes it look like it's sitting on a kitchen table. So you could continue doing that. You could put paint over the top of it. So just experiment with the different materials and tools that you have. Now I've kind of layered colors, and that looks pretty cool. And for last but not least, the background. So here I did some clouds. I did that with the crayon resist technique. I first used a pencil to make my clouds. Then I used a white oil pastel to make some circles that overlapped. And it kind of made it have a real cloud-like texture. I'm going to try a different texture now. I'm going to do some spirals in the background. You can choose whatever design or texture you want for the background. Might do another line right next to it of white. And then I can take some paint and go over the top to reveal that texture. Cool. I like it. If you want your paints to be even brighter than this, the trick is to have just a little bit of water in the cup. So you could have just put about this much water in there. And then the paint will get more saturated with color. Or you can let it dry and put another coat over the top. But if you keep putting more and more layers of color over it when it's still wet, you might get a hole in your paper. So just wait until it's dry. Maybe I want to put some red paint on it too. And then where they overlap, you are creating red violet. So have fun with this cactus project, boys and girls. And when you are finished, you can submit it to me on Schoology, or you can just email it to me. Thanks for watching.